Start.
Recording in progress.
I'm going to record part. We'll do some of the Chumash for Mondays. We're holding Mondays Chumash. I don't want to fall too far behind. So let us at least do this, and then I'm going to do 2 days Tanya. So we'll be up to date in Tanya. We'll be not too far behind in the Chumash. So let's get started over here in Parshas Matos. So if you remember, it's actually quite interesting. If you remember the Chumash from yesterday, that what's it called? The Hashem told Moshe, before you pass away, you have one more job to do, and that's to kill the Midianites who tried to destroy and kill the Jewish people. So the Jews go, they choose, remember, 1,000 people from each tribe. They ended up being 12,000 people, we said. And they fight the war against the Midianites. They kill all the men, and they bring back all the women and all the children. So here's what happens. And Moshe and Elazar the Kohen go out to greet the people. And all the princes, the leaders of the community, the Krasam, to meet up with them, outside the camp. So they're coming, they're welcoming their soldiers back. And they ran out. And Rashi says it wasn't so simple just to greet them. They saw a problem that they went running out. They saw the youth growing to grab the spoils. So these people are coming back with tremendous amount of, money and all the spoils and the gold and the silver. And it was like, havoc coming to be. So right away, Moshe Rabbeinu comes running out together with the high priest who was Elazar. Because remember, Pinchas was the priest that joined them. But here Elazar, his father, the high priest at that time, the Kohen Gadol at the time, went to greet them, and all the leaders, and they see havoc going on. And a lot of interesting laws are going to be learned from today's Chumash, because how do we deal with koshering products and putting stuff in the mikvah? It's all going to come from here, because here they're getting non-kosher, non-Jewish owned vessels, and they're going to be owned by Jews, and we're going to learn those laws from here. We're not going to learn it today, we'll learn it tomorrow, but at least we'll come back with the first fascinating part of the story. Moshe got angry at the officers of the army. Who were the officers of the army that Moshe got angry at? On the heads of the army, Alafim, the officers of the thousands that oversaw. They also had 12 officers that each of them oversaw 1,000. Ameis, and the officers of the 100. Habayim Mitzvah Muhammad, that are coming back from the war that took place. So Moshe got angry at them. So Rashi says something very interesting in etiquette and lessons in life. He tells you that when you have people in charge and overseeing, they take responsibility for the negative actions that the people under them did. Because had they said something, had they used their position of authority and power to stop people from doing bad, they would have stopped the people from doing bad. And therefore, the people in charge have to suffer the consequence of the negative action of the people that they were in charge of. A fascinating Rashi here. In general in life, that people who have a position of authority get in trouble for not overseeing as they should the people over them. And what is Moshe angry at them about? Moshe said to them, you let all the females live, you killed all the Midianite men, but you let the female women. That was the stupidest thing to do. That was the most wrong thing to do. Why? Hein Heina, verse 16, they were the ones that Hoyelivnei Yisrael b'dvar Bilam, they were the biggest troublemakers, the Midianite women who were involved in the plan, in the words of Bilam, Limsar Mal Hashem, to betray Hashem, to go against God, Al Dvar Pa'ar, to get the Jewish people to serve the Pa'ar idol. But because of these women, did the plague come Badas Hashem into Hashem's community. These were the women that made all the trouble. They were the ones that enticed the men in order to get them to serve the Pa'ar idol. As you know, as Rashi quotes the story, which we learned the other week, that Bilam said to them, to Balak, he says, there's no way you could destroy the Jewish people through a war. Even if you get all the nations in the world to attack the Jews in a physical war against the Jewish people, even if you get all of them together, you're not going to win the Jews. The Jews survived Egypt, which had 600 powerful chariots that were attacking them. They had the latest, the best war infantry, war power, whatever they had. and you know you're going to attack the Jews. There's one thing you could do, Balaam said, get the women to seduce the men, and that will cause them to sin. And because God hates harlotry and these kinds of things, immorality. So who did they hire? Who did they get to be the ones to violate, to hurt the Jewish men? They got the Jewish people. They got the Midianite women. And here, who are you leaving alive? The biggest troublemakers that caused the greatest havoc among the Jewish people. And then the next Rashi says, it was so bad that the people knew which women enticed which men. They knew the names of the women. They knew the list. It was like that clear who was the one who cohabited with which man. It was so it's a bullshit. It's embarrassing to the Jewish people what these women did. And here you are, you're killing all the men and bringing home all the women that were the ones who caused the Jewish people to sin. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Va'ata hirgu kol zachar b'taf." You have to kill all the male children. I guess they kept the male children alive. Like we said, all the children were alive. Chol ishi das ish, and any woman that is of the age to have the possibility to cohabit with a man, the mishkav zachar haraygu, you should kill the woman. So even if the woman didn't cohabit yet with a man, but the woman is of age that she could cohabit with a man, that would already qualify them to be part of the nation that caused the Jewish people to sin, and therefore they would get capital punishment. So that is verse 17. And what do you do with all the kids, all the women kids? Verse 18, and all the children by the women, that are not of age to have intimacy yet, you should live and you may keep for yourselves, as was the way in those days. And what else? Now we're going to start getting into many laws of what do you do with the people that are alive or the people that killed people. We have a major problem, and we're going to start learning the laws and a number of very important laws. So first of all, we know that there's something called impurity, which is tuma. Tuma is impurity, that if someone was near a dead body, they're not allowed to come into the Beis HaMikdash. So they're greeting the army that's returning outside the camp. They haven't entered the Jewish camp yet. So look what he tells them to do. Don't come back yet. They tell the army people they can't come back yet. Stay out of the camp of the Jewish people. Shivas Yamim for 7 days. Kol Hoyreg Nefesh, anyone who killed another person should not allowed to join the Jewish community until after 7 days. Any one of the people that touched a dead body or that killed a dead body with a sword, like we'll see, which means you didn't physically touch a dead body, but even if you had, we'll see in Rashi in a moment, interesting laws regarding contamination. But Yom HaShlishi is Tischato b'Yom HaShlishi v'Yom HaShvi has to have the red heifer ashes sprinkled on them on the 3rd day and the 7th day. And your captives too, and we'll see exactly what that means. Let's see what Rashi says has to be done before the Jewish people join them. So number one, what's the problem? Rashi says is that the Jewish people can't go into the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash until they have been discontaminated from touching dead bodies. Now, we know the law is that if you touch a dead body, you become impure. The question is, what happens if you touch a dead body with something else, not with your actual hand? What happens if you had a sword in your hand? What happens if you shot an arrow and you killed a person? So Rashi says, from this verse, we learn very important rules regarding the contamination. If a person used something like a sword, which is metal, which is a vessel that could, and now we have to learn the laws of what exactly could receive impurity and what cannot receive impurity. Anything that was made into a vessel, whether it be a cup, a plate, a fork, a sword, if that thing is a receptacle because it's already a vessel, if you hold the sword and the other end of the sword kills or touches a dead person, that vessel has the capability to transfer the impurity to the person, even though they're not actually touching the dead body. So the impurity from a dead body can move through a receptacle that is a vessel from the dead body to the person. So even if a guy never actually touched the dead body, just touched the sword which killed the person or touched the dead body, the person becomes tummy, the person becomes impure. So all these people that came back from army that killed someone, that had a sword that killed someone, they are automatically impure. If they shot an arrow, then they actually didn't touch the body with the arrow, it flew in the air, then they don't become impure. Okay, that is fact number one. Fact number two, the sprinkling that's done here. It's the common sprinkling that's done when you touch a dead body. Here opens up a very interesting question. Does Judaism view a non-Jewish body and a Jewish body the same, that they have the ability to make another Jew impure? So if you go to a non-Jewish person's funeral, or you go to a cemetery where there are non-Jewish people, does that cause, I guess you could ask the question with a kohen. With a kohen going to is a kohen allowed to go to a cemetery of a non-Jewish person? Does the body give out impurity the same way a Jewish body does? And he says, very interesting, that there is an opinion that holds that it's not to the same extent. A non-Jewish body doesn't give out impurity the same way a Jewish body, a dead body, does. Which he says is an opinion that says that we all know that a Jewish body in a room will contaminate anyone that walks into that room. So if you go to Bloomfield Cooper's, and there's a funeral there, kohen's not allowed to go in, and a person's not allowed to go into that room, and a person is allowed to, but those that are allowed to, non-kohen, will become impure. But what happens if a non-Jewish person is there? So there is an opinion that holds that a non-Jewish person will not contaminate you when you're within the room. However, even according to that opinion that holds that a non-Jewish body cannot contaminate other things in a room, if you touch the non-Jewish body directly with your hand, with a sword, then the person will become impure. So even the one that's more lenient with a non-Jewish body will hold that you could still become impure if it's a direct touching situation. Very interesting. So that is next. That is a comment. There's a lot more to discuss in it, but limited time. That's what we'll talk about. Now, what happens when a non-Jew converts to Judaism? At that point, they will start becoming like the Jew. I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess while they're not Jewish, they don't become contaminated. In other words, only a Jew has the issue of becoming contaminated. A non-Jew there's no issues of contamination. However, if the non-Jew will convert to Judaism, then they can become contaminated and will require the sprinkling just like any other Jew. And that is the end for today. Tomorrow we're going to discuss, well, can vessels be contaminated? And we'll learn other laws, mikvah, and how do we kasher, and all the laws of kashering and so on, which we koshered Yehuda's house the other day, will be learned from tomorrow's Chumash. So make sure to join me for that. That's the end of today's